over the last 2 years, this group has recorded a number of programs on astrophotography, different aspects of it, different segments of how you go from, an equipment point of view, a software point of view, and so forth. So there's just a lot of really good information there that's been put together by club members so that if you're watching something and you're seeing something and you have questions, you can reach out. And we also have a Slack group. I don't know if you're aware of that, Charles.
No, I know about Slack, but I didn't know about the group. No.
Yeah, and so there's one for for the, I think it's called the Southeast Imaging Group, we can get you on that, because that's one way that if you're watching those YouTube videos and you have a question, chances are the author's available on Slack, within a day or so, and you can put your question directly to the author. So it just kind of reinforces all the resources we have here at the club. So, Jeff and Dennis and Matt and Gabe and others have done programs, and they're all on here from time to time. So
sounds great. Thank you.
Good.
Welcome, Charles.
So just to get our discussion going as to what people are imaging these days when the sky is clear. And I noticed, Dennis, the other night that you said you had your artificial intelligent robot doing some imaging for you. So what's out there in the summer skies that's available for imaging? And but anyone can jump in.
Yeah, well, the project I'm working on now is, and again, later on, after we all kind of discuss what targets are, I'm working on the Crescent Nebula right now. It's in a great position, and I'll show you on Telescopicus, how you can determine, what altitude the target is at, and so on and so forth. So I think that's an important issue. Being able to get a menu of all of the available targets. Some of the software allows you to set parameters on, only show me targets that are visible, right? and at a certain altitude, in case you have trees and houses and stuff like that. And then you can also filter by, do I want to look at galaxies or nebulosities or whatever. So I think the tools are very, very important to help way back when I used to browse, I'd open up SkyX and turn on all of the galaxies and nebulosities and globular clusters and just kind of click on look east, look west, look south, and see what objects were available. And then in SkyX you can switch to non-real time, and you can accelerate the clock and look at where everything is going to be at 10 o'clock or midnight. That's pretty cumbersome, but you can do all of that now in programs like Telescopicus, and also in Gabe's planning software. You can see the rise and fall of the objects that you've selected. So, but right now Bertha is doing the Crescent Nebula for me, and I think she's pretty done. I've got about 25 hours of data on the Crescent right now, and so which is too bad because now I've got to go find another object. And summertime is not a real good time for nebulosities, but there's a few, and I'll show you what's available in Telescopicus a little bit later.
Good, good. So anyone else before we go into using some of the tools, things that they're looking at in imaging now, or?
It's a really good time for the Milky Way overall.
Yeah, I'm going to be looking at the Helix Nebula. It's really low in the sky, and Sombrero, stuff that I think is cool. And I like going for galaxies that are fairly small because they got a big telescope, and I want to have stuff that isn't just like an NGC number, because when I show a picture to somebody that isn't an astronomy person like my wife, unless it has a name attached to it, they really don't know anything about it. But when you say like the Saturn Nebula or Owl Nebula, they go, oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I go kind of for that kind of stuff, but smaller kind of objects, stuff that's like 10 arc minutes and smaller.
Yeah, what's your field of view on that big scope?
20, 30 arc minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty small. My
Pretty
focal length, I have the 2,700 millimeters.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, when I
Yeah,
read
so like bigger nebulas and nebulosities.
yeah.
So some of the big stuff, big galaxies, all I see is the core. It's no fun.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that brings up, I think it's a good lead into talking about some of the tools, because some of these tools will allow us to put in our own telescope parameters and generate a field of view. And I know the one that I've been using, Telescopius. And Dennis, do you want to present that? And before, is there anyone else? And also, if you're not talking, you need to mute. There was some noise coming through, but I think that was maybe Rich, and I think that's muted. So,
Okay. Yeah, I can start it off, and then I love to see what other folks are using. I like a lot of free stuff, and so Telescopicus is free. The author does ask for donations, which is a typical author thing to do. Gabe now has a very big donation button on his app now, which is glad to see. So let me figure out the share screen thing here. All right. So can everybody see Telescopicus?
I see it.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I really like this program because if you do also travel to or use other telescopes, once you go to the site, which is just telescopicus.com, I certainly suggest that you set up a profile, and basically you're just setting up an email address and your coordinates of your location, because then Telescopicus will actually send you emails informing you what's in the sky tonight. In particular, there's a trigger that I have set, so when there's a new moon, what are all the objects that you can image with a new moon. And so once you set up a profile, you can set up multiple observatory sites, as you see here. On occasion, I use the Canary Island SLU telescope, and also the SLU down in Chile. But then when I go to Tucson and you spend time up on Mount Lemmon at the Sky Center, I can select the Sky Center and see where all the objects and what I'm going to be observing in Tucson. and then of course, my own personal observatory. Of course, it gives you all the basics, sunrise, sunset, astronomical night, and astronomical sunrise. So this is all really handy stuff. But then what I like is if you select targets, and I tend to lean towards deep sky objects. But again, you can set all these different search parameters. The default times are set up for you for astronomical sunset to sunrise. I set my horizons. Don't show me anything that's under 20 degrees. I'm just not interested. And it has to be at least visible for a couple of hours. I make my own decisions about the moon, but then you can do all kinds of stuff: apparent size, apparent magnitudes, and so on and so forth. But what's nice is I can slew through here, and it kind of prioritizes things. And you see these neat little graphs here. And so here's my 20-degree horizon here. If I put that dot right there, that's right at 20 degrees. And so this is the difference between regular sunset and astronomical sunset. And so I can actually tell, for example, for the elephant trunk here, exactly how much imaging time and at what altitudes. So it's really kind of a no-brainer. And if you're interested, you can get more detail. You can click on that object, and it'll kind of slew through what other folks have taken images and have posted it on Telescopicus. Now, I don't use this feature anymore because I'm using a feature in Voyager that allows me to set up my field of views and that type of thing. But if you're not using Voyager or something like that, it's really got a neat, you can click on the telescope, put your telescope parameters in your camera, and you do a plate solve and figure out the rotation of your field of view. So I put all those things in here, and so I can actually see my field of view here, and now in Voyager I can do this, and then it'll feed the coordinates to a sequence. But this gives you a really nice tool to see how you can frame a particular object. So I just kind of slew down the list. I mainly look at these right curves to see where I'm going to get my biggest bang for the evening. Obviously, there's not a lot going on with with the lagoon right now, and so you certainly want to just skip over curves like this, and some of them just never really get. Well, this guy gets up to 43 degrees, but it's a real fast way to scan through. So here's the project that I'm just finishing up right now. The crescent, and boy, I've been getting a lot of good data. It's already up, at about 10:30, which is pretty damn close to astronomical sunset, 10:44. So I'm not losing any time here, and basically I can image this guy all the way until about 3 o'clock in the morning. That's why I've been able to acquire a real ton of data. Like I said, I've got 25 hours in the can right now. So anyway, but that's the highlight. You can do all kinds of filtering, and I don't know what some of these other toolboxes are. There's telescope simulators, calculators. Oh, I see. Telescope limitations by aperture. I've not actually used any of these tools, but choose a calculator. So apparently, there's all kind sensor pixel sizes. Wow. So to tell you the honest truth, there's a lot of stuff in here that I actually haven't played with. So. More features in here than anything else. So, so that's about it. Quick overview. I don't know what's under this astrophotography thing. Oh, that's just galleries and upload your own photos. I think I've uploaded some stuff. Myself. Yeah, maybe not. It says that. Oh, there they are. So here are some of the images. And so when you upload your images, they cycle through. When somebody else picks that same object, you'll actually see one of your images from your gallery, pop up as well. So. All right. Any and of course you could put in all of your equipment and that kind of stuff. I actually haven't. I've done some of that here. Yeah. I've got some of the stuff that I've worked with. There's my Takahashi and some of the cameras and so on and so forth. So, any questions?
Yeah, I mean,
There's a lot to chew on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a fun site to play with.
yeah, I like to enter the equipment in there because it's a good way to kind of visualize how much is going to get brought into the photo. You can kind of move it around, and then if I recall, when I would do this with iTelescope, you can actually go in there and use all the iTelescope scopes as well, and then you can actually export the J coordinates, and then you can use that to reserve your calendar item. Basically, you can reserve your imaging time with those exact coordinates after you frame it up. So that was helpful too.
Dennis, I don't know if you mentioned this, if I missed it or not, but one of the things that I use this for is I don't all that often go to the site per se. But what I do have is I've taken the time, I can't remember where the heck it is, but I put in all my information just like you have.
Mm-hmm.
And every month, like a week before the new moon, I get an email.
Right.
And it gives me all the recommended targets. I don't know if you mentioned that, but.
Yeah. And that's it. And you set that up in your profile.
Yeah.
And so you tell them, all your locations and email addresses and that kind of stuff. And every a week before every new moon, I get a whole list of targets.
Right.
And it's really nice to. I don't know if I also set in my profile my preferences for deep sky or galaxies or whatever, but it seems to know. I must have specified that because it kind of shows me pretty much all of the nebulosities that are available. So yeah, that's a nice feature. And
do others use Telescopius?
I'm gonna figure out how to stop sharing here. All of my all of my icons are gone. Does anybody else have any? Kevin asked if anybody else is using. Do you want me to keep this open, or should I just close it and move on?
As long as you have it there, why don't you go up to where it says targets?
Okay.
Just click on that.
Yep.
And as Dennis was saying, you know, if you just want to focus on deep sky, or you just want under object types, I think you can open that up, and you can, you know, put whatever you want in. Or if you don't want to see open clusters or clusters,
Right.
because sometimes it just gives you too many things to sort through. So same thing with magnitude and size. It really allows you to customize what it's showing you for, you know, what you're interested in and what your telescope and camera are best at.
Right. Yeah. You know, with my field of view being a degree by a degree and a half, you know, I don't like looking at stuff below 20 arc minutes. I mean, you know, you have to, you know, zoom in on the objects, and so I do have some of these set, you know, as well. Mm-hmm. And you can select the, you know, the different catalogs. You know, I've got a lot, just all of the, you know, the standard ones selected. There's actually more to this program. I mean, you know, when you first load it up, you can easily spend a couple of hours just familiarizing yourself and kind of tailoring it to your astrophotography environment.
Dennis, do you want to just, for everyone on the call, all the different types of levels of experience, do you want to explain the chart that's shown on all of the entries? Because we'll see that chart again later. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if let me just go to the object that I'm working on now. So if you click on it, you'll get a bigger view of that. But the chart is very, very important. It shows you the horizon that you want to work above. So I've got this set at 20 degrees. I don't ever image. It's too low in the atmosphere, so I don't image below 20 degrees, and typically like to be at 30 or higher. But what this is showing you is this left bar here is the, so that says 846. That's pretty close to where I've got it. So the outer edge, this outer edge shows you the regular sunset, and then the gap is and then you're on the inner edge is astronomical sunset. You know, so typically when I'm in this gray zone, you know, I may be doing some focusing and opening up the observatory and, you know, those little housekeeping stuff, so that when this guy hits, you know, 10:30 or so, 10:44, you know, you're ready to go. And so this will tell you how late you can, so you can use this to, knowing your duration, your exposure lengths, you can figure out how many subs that you're going to be able to do, you know, during the viewable time slot up until astronomical sunrise. So this is a really handy little interactive graph that kind of tells you everything you need to know for that particular object for a given evening.
It also, I think if you click on yearly, it'll tell you when it's the highest.
There you go. There, yeah.
They're all tuned to your location too that you enter. So
Yep.
Right.
as you change your observatory location, it changes too, which is pretty neat.
Yeah. And you can actually check the dates out here.
Yeah, because you might have heard that, oh, this is an interesting object to image. You can search for that image, and you might find that it's not up now. You can come here yearly, and you can find when
Right.
it's the best to image. I wanted to image something for my daughter, and it was a cluster, but it's only like November, December. And, so it tells you, okay, if you're going to do this, this is when you're going to have to do it. Again, within those same parameters as Dennis is talking about, something that's 20 or 30 degrees above, not something that's kind of drifting along the horizon.
This is a real nice feature as well for planning, long-term planning.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Can I just toss out one idea?
yeah.
This website, one of the nice features about it is that it allows you to export a CSV with your lists. And so one of the things that you can do is you can create a list that doesn't have any filters, and then you can get just basically a huge CSV file with all the targets. I did this maybe 4 years ago. I got a list of about 9,000 objects out of this website, and it gives you the name, the common name, magnitude, RA deck. So then, once you have the list in CSV, you can add that to. You could do some custom like I wrote a Perl program that uses that CSV file. You could do some filtering in Excel. So I mean, you can kind of use the data in another format. You don't have to go to the site to get it. Gabe could add it to his app if you wanted to, stuff like that.
Well, that's a good lead in to, here's a way of planning what you're going to do tonight, or, you can put in different dates and things like that. But, Gabe, with your tool or with Voyager or some of the other tools, how do you get your data for, assuming Gabe is still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. How do you get the data into your program?
Let me do a little demo of that, kind of my workflow for that. See my screen okay?
Yep.
So you see AstroBen here, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So what I usually do is just kind of cruise AstroBen if I find a topic or an object that looks really interesting, that I have an image before, maybe different framing or something like that. I'll think it's interesting and want to image it. So this is an example. I just pulled this up a couple minutes ago. I don't think I've imaged this one before. So I look at the, got this down 3359. And because I'm using Voyager, I can use the dashboard that comes with Voyager. This is connected to my high resolution instrument. I go down to the virtual field of view, put in that object, click find, adjust the angle and so on. And then I hit RoboClip. And this is a database, an internal database for Voyager. It's similar, I think, in sort of mechanism to the CSV file that you referenced. And adding the CSV import would actually be a really nice idea, so that I can work on including that to the app as well. But yeah, so this is a list of all the objects that I've been, wanting to image through over the years, and some of them I've imaged and closed out. But in this case, because I want to add this to my list, I just add it 3359. I want to add this to my high res group. You can do groups in different ways with Voyager, and in my case, I do it by instrument sort of pairing through the telescope and the sensor. So in this case, it's a Dahl Kirkham 12.5-inch scope with a ASI 6200 camera. And then for a note, I'll do LRGB, and if I remember right, that object had H alpha as well. At least I had a very strong red component. So I think some subs with H alpha would benefit there. And all I have to do is hit save. And then as you go through, and add these objects, they'll start populating that RoboClip database that's internal to Voyager. And part of the app that I have, it reads that database and does much like what you have on Telescopius, where you see the altitude over time. In this case, it's also specific to your location. And you can, see when certain objects are up, and then sort of gauge what the timing is when you want to switch over to another object. One kind of rule that I go by is whenever there's an overlap in altitude. So say I have this Draco complex and then Sharpless 115. I'd usually try to transition around this time. Also, if the moon is up, I try to avoid doing broadband imaging. So I can sort of see when I can translate, transfer from one object to another based on these overlaps and based on how much data I still have yet to collect. And down here, there's a listing of sort of in progress or in flight targets that are paired with whatever objects appear up here. So this is just broadly kind of how I organize my my sessions. That's the way I've been doing it for several years. There's also another way where using Voyager Advanced, which is a different sort of version of Voyager that has another type of catalog of objects similar to RoboClip, but it decides sort of on the fly which objects to go after. So it doesn't really have this like explicit, at this time we want to translate over to this, or move over to this other object, start taking frames. It does everything sort of on the fly, so it's very hands off. That's also another way, but regardless, I can still add these targets that I find on AstroBin and things that are interesting to that system, and have that system decide which to target for imaging based on like priority, how high it is, whether the moon is up. It takes all that into account. So it takes a lot of that sort of decision work for you out of the equation, which I still think that, planning your night and all that stuff, planning which time you want to switch over, it does take some time, but it's still, I don't know, I still think it's kind of fun too. So it's not like the Voyager Advanced would take over all the, all the planning and everything like that. I still enjoy the planning. Let's see if I missed anything else. Yeah, with AstroBin, I mean, you have so many astrophotographers on there that you get a really nice variety of objects, and usually the sort of more unique ones kind of bubble up to the top because they aren't imaged as often. So when someone sees them, they usually get a lot of likes. So like this main page, I mean, image of the day, obviously usually has very high quality objects, but also rare or not commonly imaged objects. And I've been imaging for about 15 years now, and so I've imaged a lot of most of the Messier objects and things like that. So I'm sort of geared more towards the rarely imaged objects, and something like this Barnard 169. I don't know what altitude this is, or declination. Okay, so it's high 50s. So this is easily in my wheelhouse because where I image, I have blockage to the south. Anything below deck of 0, I really have a strong restriction on what I can image. So this would work for me. This is something that I would definitely add. I would consider adding to RoboClip, and then eventually some night have an imaging run of it.
So, Gabe, is it fair to say that rather than Telescopius, you'll often look here for ideas or?
Yeah, the thing, Telescopius is great for, I think, getting ideas for targets. But if you've imaged a lot of the targets that they always suggest, you're going to run out pretty quickly. Then you need another source to sort of synthesize what you want to image. And I think AstroBin is a great resource for that. You can follow certain astrophotographers. They have a tendency. You have some guys who only image like Starcless objects, or only image Able objects, or have a project where they want to image every single Able object. Small obscure planetary nebulas. And with those are great resources as well, because you're like, I want to image a planetary nebula that I haven't done before. You know, the Able catalog is probably a good place to start because there's a lot there. It's, I think, within reach of what we can do with our skies. You do it over, you know, several nights and you can have a pretty good image with that. I think I've done like 6 or 7 different Able objects with this. Yeah, so I have 5 Able objects that I've imaged. But almost all of these I've gotten from like looking through AstroBin. Like these 2 guys, EGB 1 and 4. I don't know. I forgot what the symbol, you know, or what the acronym is for, but these are very faint planetary, or yeah, I think they're planetary nebulae. They're very, very faint, but they have really cool structure to them. So these are, I'm sort of in my list as well. I've made some incremental progress on them, I think. I have a little bit over 3 hours of that one.
So I'll often, you know, as Dennis talks about, look at Telescopius, but then because I am very new to astrophotography, just to get an idea as to, you know, how I might go about imaging it, I'll go to AstroBin, put in, you know, maybe not my exact telescope, but rather than saying the brand, I know it's 130 or, you know, millimeters. I'll put in a couple of parameters and it'll bring up, you know, images. And like you said, you can see which ones were nominated or promoted or were winners, or which ones are kind of interesting looking. Or if you've picked a specific object, I can zero in and say, okay, I'm using a 2600 CWO mono camera, and I'll find out what people have imaged. I'll be able to go in, if they've been good about putting in their information, which filters they used, how much time they had, and maybe even some notes about processing. So it's a way of having a, if you will, a buddy there that has already done that object that you're interested in, and have some notes about it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think with AstroBin, all the, you know, the whole community, there are several. If you pick a fairly popular target, you'll have a very wide distribution of, you know, images and quality of images, how much exposure is done, what type of instruments are used, and that's a very good way of getting a feel for how much effort or, you know, commitment it'll take to get an image that you want out of it. And I think with most imaging sort of platforms that are out today, like whether it be Voyager or Sequence Generator Pro or Nina, they all have some sort of framing tool. And I think that's great too. It's, you know, with and Telescopius as well. But I think that's great too, because it allows you to do that sort of artistic bent on a scientific object. Like, how do you want to get it framed? Do you want to have this other nebula that's close by in the frame, and then put them sort of in some sort of nice composition? That's kind of another piece of the planning that is that I think is really cool. It's you know, enjoyable to do.
Well, and as someone mentioned earlier, I mean, if you have a large aperture, large focal length camera, and maybe you also have a smaller one, this gives you the ability to put both in, frame them out, and see, okay, which unit am I going to have, and you have several, so you have to you know, make the choice as to which one works best, or if you're going to a star party or the top of Mount Lemmon, you want to be able to see what can I get the biggest bang for my buck from, which telescope, which site, etc.
Yeah, exactly.
And like you said, there's fun in going through and deciding which object you're going to image, what sort of strategy you're going to take, and getting an idea of
Mhm.
the commitment. You know, Dennis, you were talking about all the hours you put into that. How did you come to decide that you wanted 20, 25 hours of data on that image? Did you eyeball it? Did you?
Yeah. So, it's, the straight answer is I've done this image 3 times. and early on, I just wasn't taking enough subframes and just wasn't satisfied with the quality and the detail in the image. And we all know that the signal to noise improvement is the square root, right? So early on, I would take just 9 subs and be happy with a 3-to-1 signal to noise. And then I did some experimenting with longer number, went up to 25 subs and bumped the signal to noise from 3-to-1 to 5-to-1, and noticed a dramatic improvement in the. So yeah, I hate to admit, but there was just a lot of empirical, and I've kind of settled in on about a 5-to-1 improvement of signal to noise, and so now I do a minimum of 25 frame subs, per filter.
Dennis, are you still doing 30-minute subs?
No, I'm doing 15-minute subs, and that was another part of my. I started at 30-minute subs and basically figured that it was better to do shorter subs, but more of them and again, I determined that pretty empirically. I'm sure there's an analytical way of approaching that, but now I've settled in for all of my narrowband work at a minimum of 25 subs for each filter, 15 minutes, per exposure. That's kind of where I sit right now. And in broadband, I do the same thing, but my exposures are down to 10-minute exposures. So I think the short answer is I've been kind of doing this for the last 11 years, and it's been an empirical growth for me to settle out where I'm at. Now, if I change cameras, that's all gonna change for me. And I experienced a little of that installing that new 2600 camera at the Pewaukee Club. And but actually the first light results turned out to be pretty promising with that Optolong L Pro light pollution filter. I think Matt, you had recommended that with that C camera.
Yeah.
And the boys are pretty happy with that combination. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
No, that was
a lot of it just comes with experience.
Yeah.
Now there are websites and lectures where you can analytically determine all of this.
And they all agree perfectly, and they all give you the same information.
Right.
Or maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, Matt, if just to kind of finish up on planning, if you could you easily bring up your PDF from Bracken?
I can. I have a few other screens open. I can find it. It'll take me a few minutes. I'm on my work computer too, so I think it's an email.
So I think Charles Bracken is a British astrophotographer. He's on his either second or third edition of his astrophotography manual. And it is in my opinion, a very well written, very logical approach. It's something that, you know, if you want, you can read straight through, but I think its real value is as a referencing. If you want to focus in on, as Dennis was talking about, the signal to noise concept and what does that mean and so forth, he'll have, you know, a whole section or even a chapter, you know, on that and laying it out. And his most recent edition, you know, updated a lot of his stuff for the more recent CMOS cameras and how they have changed approach to things. And as part of getting his book for, I think, a few dollars more, I forget what it was, Matt, he'll put together a personal planning guide for the next couple of years. And one of the things I like is just to have a piece of paper where I know where all the new moons are, and they're all laid out very nicely in a graph, but there's a lot of other things. And it's based on, again, where you're at physically. So are you having trouble finding it, Matt, or?
Nope, I got it. I just
Okay.
have to pull it up. Yeah, it comes to you on a, when you do the custom version, it comes on a PDF, although I do have like kind of, I remember when I first got into astrophotography, it was one of the first things I came across and thought it was pretty neat. But in this case, it kind of goes through and he customizes the targets for you and then gives you the detailed charts kind of for each object that, you know, was customized and put on there. So yeah, I found that really helps because as you're starting to, if you're going through books or anything, you know, sometimes they'll have a lot of targets that aren't in your area or just, you know, aren't going to be relevant. And then, you know, this at least allows the guide to be a little useful for the time of day. So all of this is kind of explanation of how to read it. Because, you know, this was a book, so it uses this kind of print format, whereas now we have, you know, things like Telescopus, which obviously it generates some of those charts for you. So you get used to reading it this way after a while, and there's kind of a tutorial to looking at, this is month by month, just telling you how your moonless dark hours are, you know, getting much shorter, and we're kind of on the flip side here of course, this is 2024, so this goes for 2 years. So if I go back, yeah, here we go, 2023. So, you know, it's kind of a good guidebook. It's something also, let's say you're using a computer that might not have a internet connection due to whatever you're using. It's kind of nice to tuck away there. So you have that option. Especially if maybe you reach a time, there's the link there. Especially if you reach a time or something where you just finished an object you might have planned for and you want to kind of reference something really quick to maybe go to a new object. You know, something like this is helpful. So you can kind of see it's a lot on one page. You can definitely, you know, increase the zoom. To kind of give an idea of if you're eyeing up certain targets, you know, you can kind of cross-reference the month you're in and kind of use that to see, all right, is this going to be an object that is up and is it kind of in a position for me? And then they have detailed charts. So, you know, each object, let's say you pick something, then you can just jump to it. So it's not going to cover everything. It kind of just covers the top objects for astrophotography. So I wouldn't rely on it to be all encompassing, but yeah, some of this reference material is just interesting to have and kind of get an idea of the size and areas around.
Well, I think that's a good point. It's another way of looking at the same kind of material. It's presented a little bit differently. People learn and understand and comprehend and absorb things differently. So there's just one more way of looking at it. And if you're out at a star party, it might be easier to have something like this along than trying to fight for an internet connection with a whole lot of other folks.
So also he does them for like I mentioned iTelescope, but if you're doing any remote telescope system, he does align them to their you know, I actually found out about it through because I'm a member of iTelescope and he's offering these, but they can make them for some of those remote telescopes too if you're planning to use that and you have no idea what's in the Australian or I don't know, you know, some random place, Canary Islands or something.
Yeah. Jeff, you shared a link. What was that about?
Yeah, I just I think I can't remember where I run across this, but you know, one of the many emails I get every month tells you what, you know, popular targets are for the month, and it references this link, which is just yet another one of the billion resources available for, you know, targets by month that you can take a look at. This one, I don't know who puts this out, but it kind of gives a skill level too, right? Intermediate, advanced, or beginner, depending on your skill level, because some of these objects may be very extremely faint versus some that might be very, very, you know, reasonably bright objects. It's just another, yet another resource for objects by month. And
I know that there's one group, and I think it's from one of the astronomy stores, where they'll put out, I don't know if it's called a challenge, but every month they'll put out, this is an object that, you know, everyone who's interested in this, let's go see what we can do this month with it. So as you said, there's lots and lots of different resources, and I think some people are going to be comfortable with, you know, getting an email or looking at Sky and Telescope or Telescopius, AstroBin. So I guess the advice is play around, find out what's comfortable, and then start catching some photons.
I think Cloudy Nights has one of their on their forum somewhere where they have the object of the month. It's kind of neat to you know, look at everybody going after the same object with different scopes, different setups, and their results.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Matt, how do you go about getting that PDF? Is there a cost to that?
Yeah, I forgot what it was. I think it's like $15 or so. It's Charles Bracken's website. I can see if it's listed here in the PDF.
Yeah, I think when I bought his book, I got it for like not much, if anything, when I ordered it from him rather than Amazon or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and he doesn't now. If you do it this way, if you do the personalized one, you don't get the book. But I think he'll be like, "Oh, I can send you the standard one if you really want it." Otherwise, with this, that's kind of nice because you could print out only sections that you might want before you're heading out somewhere, or, you know, like I said, just stow it on your computer or something. So.
I have to admit, guys, that PDF put me over the edge. That's just too much paper, too much small font print. Yeah, no.
See, you know, we're here in Wisconsin, Dennis. You got to look out for the brothers and sisters in the paper and pulp industry. You know,
I just, you know, I just can't handle paper anymore.
and if you want to sequester carbon, what a better way than use paper? I haven't been able to sell that to my environmental friends, but
I'm sure glad somebody likes that format, Matt. Keeps the guy in, you know, keeps the lights on in his house, I guess.
yeah. But he does generally supply too as a PDF, so you can always keep it electronic. So
Okay.
and then you can search for it. You don't have to print it out. So I think we've kind of covered, you know, our agenda. There's, like I said, there's a lot of tools out there, and for members who might be watching this video in the future, try some of these, find out what you like. If you have questions, you know, reach out through the club, and everyone in the club is always willing to share their ideas and concepts and trips and traps and so forth. The next section of our program is one where we just talk about you know, new hardware issues that people might be having with hardware. Dennis getting a new camera because of hardware issues. So anything about show and tell, problems, issues, questions that people have. So it's just kind of a general discussion. And those of us that watch the on the Slack channel, the solar channel has been on fire, just like the sun. A lot of stuff going on.
The reason it's so popular, the planning is so easy, right? You know, you only got one target.
Yeah,
and you know where it's at.
yeah. Is it going to be about 20 degrees today?
Yeah.
Well, and they're clear skies during the day.
Yeah.
I think it's great. You know, I've shown my neighbors some preliminary stuff, even with the what turns out to be non-Newton rings. But they were so excited looking. I had a bunch of kids in here looking at the live image and we were just scrolling around on the surface and coming across sunspots and prominences, and yeah, everybody was just they were just so. And I said, well, and these are even just bad images. You know, wait until I get rid of all of the herringbones, you know, going through it. But yeah, no, it's very exciting for the non-astronomers. You know, I had 22 people from a nursing home out at MAS looking at our solar scope out there. And I did the same thing. I brought a large monitor outside of the observatory and fed the SharpCap into a secondary monitor under a tent for them. And boy, they just had the time of their lives. It was just, you know, pretty exciting. I mean, the biggest question was, well, what am I looking at? Is that what our sun looks like? And so it's quite the reveal to a lot of people.
When I'm showing it, sometimes I have to try to remember how many Earths the prominence can fit in it, depending on what prominence. It's I just go with at least one Earth.
Yeah, make up a number. It's greater than one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the great thing about outreach is, you know, this time of the year, are you going to get kids or adults or anyone that's going to stay up till 9:30, 10 o'clock and at best maybe see Venus. This is something that can be done during the day, and we're very fortunate to have a very active sun. So it's just not looking at a spotless disk. There's something going on, and it appears that it's going to continue, along this path for another 18 months or longer.
Right.
There were several years where it was just the cue ball. So
Yep.
we're overdue right now.
Yeah.
And we'll go back to that, but right now the sun is shining.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty exciting time. By the way, Jeff, my camera is arriving on Saturday.
Okay, great.
So high point kind of stuck in there, and you guys were scaring the pants off of me with all your horror stories about false advertising and not shipping and so, oh my gosh, until I got that tracking number this morning, I was really starting to thinking about maybe calling customer support and canceling the order based on what you guys were telling me.
Whenever I'm looking to buy something, especially like that, my first go-to is Agena, but I cruise all the sites. If it doesn't show in stock, I'm not. Agena is my first choice, but if they didn't have it in stock and somebody else did, I would go with them.
Yeah. So they weren't lying, and when I bought it, they said there were 2 in stock, and I checked the website the next day, and it said 1 in stock. So.
Oh, I thought you said when you ordered it, it was not in stock.
No, that was from Astronomics.
Oh, okay.
Astronomics is my first choice because of the discount they give you. I mean, it's on a purchase like that, 2.5%, gets me breakfast and or lunch at Panera's. So
is that all it is? Is 2.5%?
2.5%.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
I'm not sure if everyone on the call knows the context, but maybe are you able to kind of summarize what led you down the path of finding that you might need a different camera for solar?
Well, okay, so the camera that I was using, I thought, because everybody else has experienced these Newton rings, there's these bars that are floating through your image, and so went out and bought a tilt plate and tilted the hell out of it, and the bars never changed. And thanks to Jeff, who recalled hearing about that particular camera on, well, I don't know if it was Cloudy Nights or whatever site you found, Jeff, but this guy had reported that the way the camera was reading out the frames was causing this beat or this interference pattern that was rippling through the image. Yeah.
By the way, that there's nothing wrong with the camera. It's just not suited for solar. That's all.
Right. Well, it must have something to do with how it reads the frames, though, because there's a beat. So what you're seeing is a beat frequency in the image that's solid, and it doesn't change.
But if you image the moon, we wouldn't see that.
No.
Something to do with brightness,
right,
of the object.
Yeah.
And for anyone who, I'm recalling from the conversation in Slack, but I know the Slack conversations can go fast.
Yeah, there it is.
People miss it, but this is the pattern you're talking about, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a nice image if you can look through, the bars. But actually, this was one of the images when I had 3 of my neighbor kids in the room, and God, they were just so excited, and they couldn't believe what they were looking at in real time. Now, of course, this is a stacked image, but Yeah, so no, I'm tired of looking through those Venetian blinds.
By the way, you are still going to need your tilt adapter, so that was not.
Oh yeah, okay.
So
Yeah. But it'll have some effect
yeah, right.
with the next camera. So yeah, no, I'm excited. This is and and it's going to force me to to learn more about the different surface features. And I mean, with the scope out at MAS, you're not getting down into the photosphere like you are with this Quark system. So it's you're seeing more of a full disk and less photosphere features.
I did have a different question. I don't know if we can switch topics. It's related to solar, but Matt, when you mentioned about the Earth size, something that I haven't really found a great way to do this, and I don't know how people are doing it, but is there maybe if there's something in PixInsight or something? How are people adding the Earth to their images to demonstrate scale and size? I know how I've done it, which is very archaic, where I go grab a JPEG of the Earth and then I shrink it down and scale it up manually, which is incredibly painful. And when I scale it down, all it looks like is a blue dot by that point. Does anybody know how people are doing that effectively? And it, because when I see it, it actually still looks like an Earth. Mine does not.
Well, it depends on how you. I mean, I do that in Photoshop.
Well, that's what I was doing, but
yeah,
like I said, by the time I shrink it down to the scale that it needs to be,
it's
okay. Unrecognizable. It just looks like a blue circle.
Yeah.
And you see, I've seen some pictures where they've superimposed the Earth next to Jupiter recently, and things like that. So it seems that people are doing it, I would think, automatically or with a tool of some sort. So that's a good question.
All right, I'll keep looking. I did search briefly, and I really haven't found much out there. So if you see something, let me know.
Yeah, I usually just search the web until I find a picture that I like. And just I don't have
any other hardware issues, software issues.
How's the observatory going, Josh?
Oh yeah.
Well, you guys saw the images on Slack that I've shared. I finally have the roof trusses and the spar or whatever you call it across the top. It's slow going because I'm just me right now in my spare time when I have it, chipping away at it, trying to navigate these hot days as well. Today would have been awesome if it wasn't raining. I would have been out there because it was like very very comfortable temperature wise and dew point wise, but unfortunately it was raining. So but yeah, it's going well. I mean, I've got a long way to go. I hope by before snowfall it'll be ready.
We need to put together like they used to have back in the pioneer days, like barn raisings, that everyone from the club comes out and in a day, it's all done.
That would be great, but I'm not that planful. Like I'm, I should be better at this, but again, I'm trying to sneak this in my spare time. But like I just ordered all the roofing materials and The next thing I need to do is order the siding because there's like a 2-week lead time on the siding. So I just need to be a little bit more planful. If I did that, you guys all show up and there'd be only like one board to put on and we'd be done.
No, that's not what happened. We'd all just get distracted by like astronomy gear and nothing would get done.
Well, and especially if you had beer.
Yeah. We can look at through the solar scope while you're there.
Well, I hope you're cataloging or keeping track of your progress, because I think that'd be an interesting program next year, is kind of how you went from, you know, the basic idea to the completed observatory.
Yeah, no, I'm taking at least still shots throughout the way, and
Mhm.
I can put something together when I'm finished.
Yeah, keeping a journal of lessons learned.
Oh, I already have those.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you might have a few more to learn.
So this is the image I showed my class when, you know, as part of the talking about prominences. Yeah, this is the only one I've ever been able to find that you know shows the, you know, the relative size.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it really is, and
I'd like to go back and, because I have a, not like this exactly, but I have a similar image that I just did recently, right, with a
mhm,
giant group like that I would like to add the Earth to.
right. The problem is you don't, you know, the prominences are in so many different sizes and shapes. I mean, you know, you don't have any real scale factor, and unless in some of your, well, you don't see a full disk of the sun, because if you had a full disk of the sun, you could scale it, but you're not seeing anything that you can reference as you know, full scale.
Well, I mean, I haven't done it lately, but I do have my 80 millimeter LUNT, which is the same thing that the club has. I can do a full disc image with that.
Yeah.
Or it's actually not that painful. You can do a mosaic with the cork.
What I meant is if you have the full disc, you know, that's 30 minutes. And so you can scale then the, you know, the Earth size if you know the scale of the prominence.
Yep. Right.
Yeah. So
Keep an eye on the Aurora alerts on Slack. It doesn't look good
No,
at all for tomorrow, so we'll have to.
no. All the articles are coming out now with like, well, this is why it's tough to predict auroras. And
Yeah. So maybe next month we'll talk more about, there might be something rolling around then. So anyway, good evening to everyone, and thanks for
good meeting.
all the participation. So
All right.
take us out, Matt.
Yeah, well, I just want to mention this Saturday we have our open house at the MAS. So come bring out your gear if you want, set up. If you have solar gear, it's 4 p.m. So it's always fun.
And keep a
Good.
watch on Slack, because I'm going out to Nebraska tonight, so I'll post pictures throughout the week how things are going.
Oh,
Wonderful.
where is Nebraska, by the way?
South of South Dakota.
Oh, is that where it's at? Okay. It's one of those states you have to go, where the hell is Nebraska?
Yeah.
All right. Is it next to Iowa someplace?
Kinda, yeah.
Kinda?
I'm going the northern route through Minnesota, South Dakota, then down a little bit.
Okay.
It's
All
the,
right.
the middle top
Yeah.
of the state. Yeah, that's where the star party's at.
Go look at a map, Dennis.
Yeah, I'll have to look at
Or just
Just
drive
follow-
out there.
Yeah, just follow the corn.
All right, guys, have a good night.
All right, good
Yep.
night.
Yep.
Yeah, good.